course, the Anaheim Angels. And I'm going to put this team this year as they're going to have an average year. I don't think they get close to the playoffs like usual. That's going to be where they usually sit. They really haven't changed enough in my mind to really move them to a fringe team slash playoff team. I think they're an average team. Will they make the playoffs? No. Will they be insanely bad? No. This be around there. And I would wonder after this year, do you think about trading Shohei Ohtani? Because I don't know if he really is going to stay here with Anaheim. That's something to monitor and watch out for. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what will happen here. I think Angels-wise, like on the field, nothing much will happen. It'll be around the same as usual. But I think off the field, like say trades and stuff, like you could potentially see a Shohei Ohtani trade, I think. You do have to wonder too is Mike Trout going to want to stay there? Because, you know, he's getting to a point where I feel like he wants to win in this career. So you have to wait and see on this. But I think it's going to be more of the same this year from the Angels. I haven't seen much change to make me believe that they're going to make the playoffs here. I feel like they're going to be playing 162 meaningless games this year. Pretty much in my mind. So, yeah. If you saw, like, the meme here of, like, Mike Trout saying that, said, like, you know, at least the games the World Baseball Championship actually means something. Now you gotta play 162 meaningless games of the Angels, and honestly, that's the perfect acronym for how I would describe I think the Angels' season is gonna go to this point. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think they're gonna be average. I'd be surprised if they go above average. Next up here we have the defending champ, the Houston Astros, and I'll make the season for everyone. World Series favorites. I think they are one of the top teams here who can be the World Series favorite again this year. They kept pretty much everyone except for Verlander. They did lose to the Mets, but that pitching staff was pretty good without him, in my opinion. Like, he was one of the bigger pieces on there, but they still have a ton of great pitching prospects. You know, the hitting core needs no introduction. Yordan Alvarez, a beast. He was a bum when he got hurt. They did struggle a little bit, but dude's a beast. They will be out. Somehow, Tuve will be out, which will be kind of, I think, for like 6 to 8 weeks, I heard. So, they may not start off the best, but once Altuve's back, this team is the Astros. Like, they need no introduction. We all know they're going to do very good. I would be surprised if they don't do good this year, but yeah. Now, clearly, easily, World Series favorites in my mind. I think they're favorites to win the AL. In my opinion, I don't think anyone in the AL really can get over them right now. I see a couple teams in the future, probably, but as of right now, I don't see anyone getting over them. Next up, we have the Oakland Athletics, and yeah, they're bad. Everything about this team last year was a disaster, and pretty much, I'm going to be honest with you, nothing changed. Exact same thing, exact same sing, song, and dance here. They're going to be awful. That dumb people of a stadium that they play in is going to be empty again this year. And let's face it, you know, the A's owner wants to move the team, wants a new stadium, which is not going to happen. So he's pretty much going to be moving this team. So I don't expect them to be any good until they move to Las Vegas, because that's what's going to happen to the Athletics. They're going to have to leave Oakland because honestly, it's a disaster, you know, especially that stadium. Like, it actually seems like it's going to fall apart one of these days during a game. Like, I'm actually serious. It's actually a reason why them for one of the stadium, but it's not possible for Oakland to afford it, and, you know, sometimes it's the more the business side with MLB, and it's other sports in general, but I feel like they do have to move. Like, that's just the thing. Like, they really should consider moving. But, yeah, I don't think that owner's going to field a competitive or good team until that happens, till they move. I would say once they move to Las Vegas, expect them to be a lot better. But that's a while away, so I don't think they're going to be any good. They have high draft picks, so maybe they'll get something good out of it. That's really what you hope for, because they're pretty much probably, I would say, the worst team in the MLB this year. I think they're going to be 100% the worst team. It's going to be them or the Nationals, in my opinion, but I think Oakland has a good grasp over them, though. Next up, you have the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm going to put them up by contenders. I know that seems a little high for them, but I think last year was a good starting point for them. I think they're going to grow off that and continue to get better. They have a ton of young talent. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base. Bo Bichette at shortstop. They got George Springer in the outfield. I think he's moving out to left field, but still, very good outfield to have. They just have a lot of talent, though. And I'm excited to see what they can do this year. I think the Mansell that they hired in the middle part of last season, he seemed to be a good fit, and they did decide to keep going with him, so I think there's going to be some positive strides in Toronto, and I think they're going to finally start getting closer to what their main goal here is with this young core, which is, of course, a World Series victory. I think they're going to start taking the next steps this year, and I'm going to put my contenders. Next up, we have the Boston Braves. I mean, not Boston. That's what they used to be called. The Atlanta Braves. And they are, I think, they're World Series favorites. I think they rebound from last year's disappointment in the playoffs. They're still one of the best teams, if not the best, in the NL. This is, if we talk about, we just go on, of course, the big piece right now, pitching-wise, was the NL Pitcher of the Year, rookie Pitcher of the Year was Strider. He was lights out. They have a lot of great pitching. Freed's another very good one they have. They just have a lot of great pitching. Outfield-wise, we all know what Acuna Jr. can do. If he can be healthy, he can be a 40-40 player. And when he's healthy, he's a game changer out there. So definitely, they have big there. And also you got Michael Harris there too. They have a lot of great talent there. Infield, we don't even talk about that. They lost Dansby Swanson, which is interesting to see what happens at shortstop. But other than that team is put together. They got Matt Olson, one of the best first basemen out there. They got Ozzy Albies, one of the best second basemen out there. Austin Riley, a third base, has finally started to turn the corner, and he's finally starting to look like what he was supposed to when he was called up 2 years ago. He's really starting to grow into his role as a third baseman. And also the fun thing, too, is this is going to be a team that's going to be there a long time because the Braves, they signed up all their guys pretty quickly. It's a lot of their great young talents signed up for at least 8 more years or 7 more years. So I think they're going to be World Series contenders for a long time and favorites. And I think right now they're the favorites in the NL, in my opinion. Next up here, we have the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm going to put this team at playoff teams / fringe teams. I don't think they're making the playoffs this year. I think last year was their final shot to do something, and they weren't able to do it. And you could clearly tell, after they traded Hadel, it seems like they are finally going to be done here. And this is the start of the slow decline here. I don't have them making the playoffs. I think they'll be a fringe team. I think best case scenario for them, they're second or third in the Central. I don't think they really get that far. I can't see them getting past the Cardinals, all right? I just can't see them getting past St. Louis. That's a tough test to ask for. And honestly, it's just going to be interesting to see what all happens there because there's a lot of interesting moving pieces there. You have Yelich has continued to struggle for the last 2-3 years now. Going from MVP form to now not even being that good. There's a lot of questions here. Pitching is the only thing I really don't think is much of a question. Devin Williams, very good. There's all the other ones too. I'm not gonna go full in detail about every single one, but they have a great pitching staff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start selling off though at the deadline on some of those. But yeah, no, it's definitely very interesting to see what happens. I think this is the start of the decline for sure. I don't think they're ever gonna be in playoffs again with this core. I think the rebuild probably is gonna start this year. I think when we get to the trade deadline here, they're going to be selling off a lot. And it's going to be very interesting to see what all happens. But I think they definitely are going to be selling off. Next up here we have the St. Louis Cardinals. They're contenders. I think they're going to take a step back this year. But just because I say they're going to take a step back doesn't mean it's going to be a big step back. I think what I mean by a step back, I mean a small step back. They won't be as good, but they'll still be easily winning the NL Central, I think. The NL Central is awful, and they're the only real team in there for the most part. So they're easily gonna win. I think they can win a playoff series. My one question here really is in Paul Goldschmidt because he's 28 now, 36, which is kind of the killer age when it comes to being a first baseman. That's when they start to hit their decline. And the thing about those players' declines for first baseman is it can be somewhat graduate. Or it can be completely sharp and just go straight down. We all know what happened to Chris Davis, Baltimore. He was a 40-40 hitter. He was hitting 40 home runs. Then all of a sudden, turns 36. Next season, literally the worst player in the MLB for 3 years straight. And it was crazy. He got paid and boom. And I think Goldschmidt, there's a possibility there. I think. With that happening to him. I don't think it'll be anything like Chris Davis. I want to clarify that. It's not going to be like Chris Davis, but I think there can be a definite decline from the NL MVP here this season. Because that just seems to be the age where the first baseman start to fall off pretty good. I don't know why. That's the age for some reason. It's around 36. And that is where he is right now. Nolan Arenado last year took a step back for the bat, and the gloves starting to. It's still very good, but there's better gloves out there right now, in my opinion. It's still top 5, but it's not top 1 like it has been in the past. He took some declines last year. I think he's going to continue to decline a little more. Not really be an awful player, no, but he's not going to be the same Nolan Arenado we've known in years past. Yeah. But Wilson Contreras, that's the interesting part of catcher, because we now have a new catcher. Yadier Molina is retired now. He's gone, which as a Pirates fan, I am very happy, because I do not like him, because he ruins my hopes and dreams. But yeah, so it's going to see how Wilson Contreras really, fits in there. I definitely think it'll be interesting to see what all happens. Because he is a good catcher, but he's also kind of overrated too. He's not the best of the bat. He's not Yadier Molina. He just isn't. But I think he's a good place. I think out of all the options they could have had a catch there to try to replace him, I think Contreras is the best one, and I think it's going to work out for them pretty good. But yeah, no, definitely I think a lot of things to watch Cardinals-wise. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. They'll definitely win the NL Central. I'm not too concerned about them. Do I think they're going to win the World Series? I don't think they're favorites, but I would say there's a good chance that they could. But it would take a lot of things to happen for that to, actually happen. But yeah, they're definitely easily World Series contenders, in my opinion. Next up here we have the Cubs. And I'm going to put them at an average team. I think this year they had some great additions in the offseason with Jameson Taillon, Cody Bellinger on a 1-year prove-it deal, and you also got Dansby Swanson. I think it's definitely a significantly better team than last year's. They're not going to be as bad. Now, I think a lot of Cubs fans are thinking they're going to be a playoff team. I do not think that's the case. Cody Bellinger, I don't think he's going to. I think his best baseball is behind him. He was just one of those 1 to 2 year wonders, and then he just fell off. And I just don't think you can really fix Bellinger. Now, it'd be interesting to see if they actually can. I know the Cubs they can definitely help develop people. They're very good at developing people, so maybe they can fix them. I don't know if they can or not, but it'll be interesting. This is the real team, all right? Because a lot of their players they have some real tendencies, especially the one big name they got, Jameson Taillon. He is very inconsistent. And also as a Pirates fan, I love him because he was a great player and he's overcome so much, but he can be very inconsistent. He can be insanely good one year and insanely terrible the other year. There's no in between. Last year, really good, lights out for the Yankees. The year before that for the Yankees was not very good at all. Big disappointment. Everyone was all the Yankees fans are mad at him, but honestly, Yankees fans are always mad, so nothing's really different there. But still, a lot of consistency we got to watch out for to see what all is happening there. But I think Cubs, they're an average team. But they're not going to make the playoffs, and I don't think they're on the fringe of the playoffs. Next up here, the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're going to be average this year. I think they're going to start calling up some of their prospects here, and that'll improve how they've been in years past. And I think they're going to be middle of the road. They got a lot of great prospects coming up here, and I think they're definitely a team to watch for the future here. I know Corbin Carroll, he's one guy I'm excited to see. Alex Thompson's another one. Drew Jones Jr. is just drafted last year, though, so he's not going to be up this year. 2 to 3 years from now, he'll be up. He'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of interesting talent in Arizona, and I am intrigued, honestly, by it. But yeah, I think definitely this year, the middle of the road, some of the prospects get called up and they start getting to play, and I think, they're going to be interesting to watch. Next up, we have the LA Dodgers. Easy. Actually, not. Yeah, the World Series favorites. They're not as good as in years past, but they're still a very good team. They're going to be a tough out to beat. The roster's still loaded. Nothing really changed other than Bellinger. He's gone. So that'll be interesting to see. But Bellinger really was not doing much. So I'm not really oh, Lord, they lost Bellinger. They're done now. Nah, they're not done. The Dodgers are still going to play steamroll the NL. And just like I said with the Braves, they are going to be a tough out to get. The NL, basically, in my opinion, whoever wins it, it's between the Braves and the Dodgers. That's how it's been the last couple of years. And I think that's the way it stays. There's some interesting stuff happening in the NL. And I think there are going to be some teams on the rise here soon. There'll be tough outs as well. But as of right now, they're still developing and becoming, better. So I'm not really worried for the Dodgers. I think they'll be fine. And I think they could possibly win a World Series this year, for sure. Next up here, we have the Giants. And I'm going to put them at an average team. I'm not really thinking they're gonna be for the most part in the fringe teams. I think they'll be just out of it. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens because they lost out on a lot of big names this offseason. They lost out on Aaron Judge. They lost out on Correa. Definitely it was interesting to see what'll happen. But it's just they didn't really add much. They tried to add much. They just weren't able to. I do admire them for trying. I was a little shocked they actually did. I was thinking they were gonna go full on rebuild here, and I think since they lost out on some of these guys, they probably are. But I'm gonna say they have an average season. A lot of their old talent like Ben Belt and those guys like Crawford, they really aren't on the steep decline now. But they're trying to give them like one final hurrah. But I don't think that can happen. I think they're just gonna be an average team this year. Next up, we have the Cleveland Guardians. And you know what? This team is interesting. They have a lot of really young talent, and I think they're definitely contenders. I do think that they have a lot of great pitching too. And the thing is with Cleveland, I'm going to put them in contenders, but they could technically be World Series favorites. I think if everything could go to plan for them, I think it could happen. It's definitely not. They're not on the level of the Dodgers, Braves, or Houston Astros yet, but there's just a lot of young talent potential. Just kind of came out of nowhere, but these guys are solid and they're good. I think this can be a good team to come for a couple years here. I think they have a good young core here that's gonna be very interesting to watch. They have the great pitching. They still have Sam Bieber and Tristan McKenzie, and some of the other ones have started to show up here. I know they have Daniel Espino in the minors, a great pitcher. I think he's gonna be very good. I'm excited to see him. They have a lot of interesting stuff here, and I think they can definitely. I think they'll easily contenders, but I think if things go right, they get turned into more than just contenders. So I think they could be World Series favorites. And you're probably like, why are you hyping up the Guardians? They're okay, but they're not. They're definitely contenders, but they're not World Series favorites. I'm not saying right now they are, but there was definite potential in this team. I think there was easily. I could see them being in the World Series this year. As long as they don't face the Yankees, I think they're fine World Series-wise. I think that definitely is a good possibility. If they're facing the Yankees, they're not going to win because they can't beat New York for some reason. But they have a definite shot at a World Series this year. I think they definitely do. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out here. But I'm putting them in contenders for now, but I could see it switch as we go on throughout the season here later. That's my first one team that I'm kind of high on here that people can be like, oh, okay. Next up here, the Seattle Mariners. They're a playoff team easily. I think they're going to make the playoffs again. Julio Rodriguez is a bona fide superstar to this point here. I think he continues on his great pace. They have a lot of other young talent coming up here as well in the Mariners side. And they're going to be a fun team to watch. And I think they are going to be, after the Astros run is done here in the AL West, they are going to be the team winning the AL West. It's going to be the Mariners. I really do think that. I think Julio Rodriguez is going to be insane this year. I think he's going to be a very great player. I would put him at a contender for AL MVP. But right now, they're still developing stuff, so they're not really in the place where I can put them at contender yet. But I think they're going to continue to develop throughout this year. They'll make the playoffs. They may get a little farther than they did last year. And I would say by next season, I would probably be putting them at the contender position. But it's definitely very interesting to see what all happens. A lot of things are going on here. A lot of things can definitely change here, especially this is another team like Cleveland, I said. A lot of things can change in the season, and it'll be interesting to see what all happens with that. Next up, you have the Miami Marlins. Let me average this year. Not good, not great. They have some good pieces like Jazz Chisholm. He's a very good piece. They got Louis Arraez from the Twins this year in a trade. It was a good pickup. I know, definitely it'll be interesting to see what all happens there. There's some interesting young talent there. I think they need a lot more, though, to really actually be a good team. But I think they're going to be an average team this year. Nothing insanely awful, but nothing special. You know what I mean? It's just going to be middle of the road, like always, here. Well, not middle of the road, but, you know what I mean? Probably a 60-70 win season, I would say. Nothing special. Next up we have the Mets. They're contenders. They have a lot of great talent. The talent overall should put them in World Series favorites. However, knowing them and now them also losing Edwin Diaz to an injury, Their luck is horrible, and I'm not gonna bet on them. I'm sorry. I'm just not gonna bet on them. I don't think they can actually be that good. Like they'll have play a great regular season, but when it comes to playoff time, they're not gonna do anything. They're going to literally just fall apart again. Like they're the Mets. Like Lowell Mets reigns supreme overall. Even Steve Cohen cannot stop Lowell Mets. And let's just say Lowell Mets is gonna happen again this year. I don't know if it's a, but let me see here how it takes place because it's gonna happen. We all know it's gonna happen. Now you gotta wonder, is it gonna be like a July collapse, like the year, not last year, but the year before that, like after getting swept by the Pirates? Is it gonna be doing really good and then falling apart the last week and losing the division to the Braves, and then getting destroyed by the Padres in the wild card round? Like it's just, I like what they did on Verlander, but he's also like pretty old. Like he's gonna probably have a drop off at some point here. I think like 2-year contract. It's not bad. He may not drop off in those 2 years, but he also easily could drop off in these 2 years. So a lot of risk. But yeah, Mets, they can make noise, I think, but I think they'll fall apart in the playoffs though, because that's just what the Mets do. Next up here, the Washington Nationals. They're bad. They traded away Juan Soto and they basically killed the whole entire team here. A whole bunch of prospects right now. They have a lot of great young prospects, so they'll be a team to watch for in the future here. Like 3 to 4 years from now. But right now, they are a team you do not want to watch. Because, yeah, they're going to be awful this year. Definitely not a fun team to watch. I would not be excited if I was you to watch them, if they're your team. I'd just be like, oh, I hate this. Just put me out of my misery. Yeah. No, definitely, I don't think they're going to be awful this year. But they're rebuilding. That's what you expect out of rebuild, especially when you're just starting to rebuild. But it was a bummer they couldn't keep Juan Soto because he was an insanely great talent and insanely young too. But they got a ton out of it, and I think that trade is honestly going to benefit them a lot in the big one. But not this year, but like 3 to 4 years from now, it'll benefit them big time. But right now, it's going to hurt a lot. And honestly, if you're the Padres right now, it's going to feel really good because you got Juan Soto. And you're this close to a World Series. And they were able to add too. So, actually, you know what? I'm going to skip the World Series because this is a great transition to go straight into the Padres. So, I'm just going to do it. Padres. I like what I see. And I think you're World Series favorite. I really do. You added a lot. You added Xander Bogaerts. He's going to help you out immensely. And it's like, overall, if you look at this team on paper, it's insanely good. Like, I think that after they took out the Dodgers in the playoffs last year, I was told that San Diego can make a run. Before that, I wasn't so sure about that, but they're also going to have Fernando Tatis back this year, too. And it's going to be, I think they can have a lot of, firepower, and I think they can really do something this year. And I think if you're a Padres fan, you want to get excited. 'Cause I think this team, this and the Dodgers, like when they play the Padres and the Dodgers this year, it's been insane the last couple years. It's going to be even more crazier this year. Like I honestly think the Padres can beat the Dodgers and win the NL West. Now, will it be really close? Yeah, it'll probably be like by a game or two. Like that's probably what this division will be decided by this year, in my opinion. But these are both. This is an insanely good team. This is a lot like reminiscent of the Tigers from 2012 when they bought all those guys. It's very reminiscent of that. But I would say I think they'll probably have a better outcome than the 2012 Tigers. I don't think they will honestly not win a championship. I think they will win one. I don't know how many they'll win. It'll probably only be 1 to 2, but I do think they will win one in the near future. And this year can count in that umbrella of the near future, in my opinion. Next up here, we have the Baltimore Orioles, and I think they're going to be on the fringe to the playoffs or a playoff team. Last year, they were a fringe team. They got a lot of great prospects. I think they take the next step this year and become a playoff team. But they could also easily fall into a fringe team. But I do think they're a playoff team. To this point right now, they are a playoff team. So, yeah, no, I definitely like what I see here on them. And, if you just look at all the talent they have, like Andy Rutschman, like all these guys, like they're very good. And they're going to be forces for the league for years to come. Like, they're going to definitely lead Baltimore back to the playoffs. And I think this year probably is that year. Next up, you have the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'm going to go here with contenders. They are definitely contenders. I like what they did adding Trey Turner. They're a very good team. I think this division is going to be a three-way cutthroat, kind of race between the Braves, Mets, and Phillies. All three are very good. All three are definite contenders. I think right now the Braves have the edge, but the Phillies, they're coming off a World Series loss too. Like, they have a lot of great motivation, and like anything can go here. I think this way, and I think it's interesting to see what all happens. But yeah, definitely be interesting to see, and I am excited to see what all happens really on that front. Well, we got the Pirates. I'm gonna skip the Pirates. I'll save them for last because they're my team. So if you want to let's hear what I have to say about the Pirates, wait till the end. Next up here, the Texas Rangers, and I'm gonna go off on a limb here and say they're gonna be bad this year. I'm sorry, but I'm not sold on them really that much. They can have some hot streaks. I'll give them that, but I don't think they're a good team. I think they're probably one of the worst in MLB this year still. I know people are like, this is okay, but I don't think they're that okay. They got Jason DeGrom, but he's already hurt by this point, and that's really it they have is Jason DeGrom. I know they have Corey Seager, but I'm not a big Corey Seager fan. I never really have been a big fan of his. I don't think he's that good. Like, he's a good player, but he's not like what people make him out to be. And he's not the kind of player who can like change the game for you. And the Rangers, they just don't have that many good pieces around them. And in the division they're in, they're going to get clawboard by most of these teams. So I think that's going to hurt their overall record a bit. Like, if they were in a better division, they'd probably just be average. But just the division they're in, they're going to get killed. And I think I got to put them at bad here, pretty much. Next up here, we have the Tampa Bay Rays. And this is a team that's going to take a big step down this year. The Rays just didn't do much this year. And I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of what they're doing. They're starting to fall apart here. They're starting to sell off assets here. They sold G-Man Choi off in the offseason. They've sold some pieces here. So it's interesting to see what happens. I think some of the, small ball, having to play, money ball pretty much because they're on a small market it's finally starting to have some effect on this team. And I just don't think this team's improved. I actually think this team has probably declined. And like last year, they were definite contenders. This year, I think they were a fringe team, or they were a playoff. Like, they were the last possible seed. Like, I just don't think. And if you compare to the rest of their division, this is not that good. I'm sorry, but I don't think they can get past Toronto. They definitely can't get past the Yankees. And the Orioles are starting to rise up here to the point where I'm starting to think here too. Can they even beat the Orioles right now? Like, the Orioles are, they're a team on the rise, but I don't think they can beat them. I'm sorry, but I don't think they can beat them. To this point now, if the way the Orioles are trending continues to trend that way. Now, of course, we all know this could change, definitely the Rays, but they're going to be, I think, a team that's, they could make the playoffs, but I see them more as a fringe team, just right off the playoffs. And I think that's just due to a lot of part of just, that's how Moneyball goes, and they just, a lot of their talent is starting to get to the point where they're going to be free agents soon. And selling off G-Man Choi, I think that's one of the first ones that are going to happen. And I do expect more people to be sold off here, but yeah, definitely interesting to see what happens there. Next up, we have the Boston Red Sox. They may be bad this year. This is the start of a rebuild for you guys. If you're in Boston, they have Marcelo Mayo, and he's going to be very exciting to see what happens to him. I'm really big on him as a prospect, and they do have some decent pitching prospects, I think, in Double-A. But overall, pretty much like on the field, losing Xander's Bogaerts is huge. That was basically your team for the most part. Like, the only thing on that team that's that good right now is Alex Verdugo at center field. And I would wonder if they actually do trade him. There's definite possibility that he could be traded. But the Red Sox, this is going to be something that you haven't seen in a while. But they're going to be bad for a couple years here. But they do have at least Marcelo Mayo, and he is a very good piece to build off of, I think. So there was definitely a lot of hope for the future right now. It's just going to be a bleak couple years here for Boston. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Reds. They're a bad team. They are awful. They are the worst team in the NL Central by far. And this is a team that division has the Pirates in it. Though, honestly, I'll get to the Pirates later, but they have actually at least improved. The Reds have done no such thing. They're going to be just as awful as last year. They set records for ineptitude last year, especially at the beginning of the year there. I think they were 3-28, the worst record ever in MLB history within, like, the first month of the season. Like, that's awful. They're going to continue to be awful, and I don't think they're that good. So I'm going to put them the way where they are right now as they're terrible. Next up here we have the Colorado Rockies, and you know what? I think this is another one. It's just they're terrible. I don't think they're a good team at all. I don't. There's nothing really there that makes me be like, wow, that's amazing. Like they have Chris Bryant, but Chris Bryant isn't even as good as he used to be now. Like ever since leaving Chicago, he just hasn't been as good as he was. And they don't really have anything much stuff other than him. And the other thing too is they do play in Denver, the Mile High City, and that has a pretty negative effect on pitchers too. And like if you don't have a good hitting core and you have an awful pitching core, you're gonna get destroyed, especially when you're playing at home. And I think Colorado is going to really struggle with that, and I think they're gonna be one of the worst teams in the league this year. Next up here we have the KC Royals, and that's another team. I just don't think they're that good. I think they're a pretty bad team. Now, I could see this. This is one I could see take a step up here, but as of right now, I don't think they are taking a step up. Bobby Witt Jr. does look like he's going to be the face of the franchise, which is very good for you to see here. But yeah, there's just a lot of question marks here, and I'm not sure what exactly KC can do about that this season. I think the next couple of years, because the rebuild's been going on for a while here now, so like you're hoping to start seeing some results, but I haven't seen any to this point here. Hopefully some do show up soon, but as of right now, there have not been any results, and, you know, I got a lot of questions about the Royals. I just do as a baseball watcher, like, you know, they've been rebuilding for like 4 to 5 years now. What's improved? I haven't seen much improved other than you got Bobby Witt Jr. Like, Bobby Witt Jr. looks good, but what else do you have here? Like, you can't win games with just one player, and Casey has a lot of questions to answer on my mind, and I just don't think they're that good this year. They're on the bad tier. Next up here, Detroit. I don't even need to explain this. I don't think we have all seen what Detroit's done the last 4 to 5 years. Same like the Royals. It's the fifth year of the rebuild. What have they done? Nothing. They actually are probably worse than they started. Like they had some great prospects, but right now it just has not looked good for them. And this is the year where they need to start showing a sign, or they're kind of easy now. They're kind of out of my mind. And I think this is not a good team. I'm sorry, this is not a good team this year. They're going to be awful again, like years past. Next up, you have the Twins. They're a playoff team, a Twins team. And they got Carlos Correa back, but the reason how they got him back isn't exactly the best. You know, he failed 2 physicals, then the Twins decided was to take a risk on him. So definitely will be listening. I do think that if they do stay healthy, they have a good chance at getting second in the division. I don't think they can get past the Guardians, but I think they can be a wild card team easily. I do think they are a good team where they can do that. I do think they'll make the playoffs. Will they go far? No, they won't go far at all, but they do have a shot at it, and they do have some younger talent coming up as well. So a lot of things to watch out for Twins-wise, but I do think they are a playoff team. This is not a very good playoff team. Next up here we have the White Sox, and they're a Twins team. I don't think they're making the playoffs. I think their chances kind of evaporated when they had Tony De La Rosa. I think that's kind of where things fell off. And their prospects just can't stay healthy. But if they do stay healthy, they are a playoff team. But we just very uncertain about that. So that's why I'm putting them in the Twins right now, as they could be, but if they wins, if they're not. I feel like they could be the team that just misses out on it, or they could be a team that literally makes it. They'd either make it, or they'd be like a couple, like 5-6 games out. I feel like that's exactly where the White Sox are gonna end up this year. And yeah, that's where they go. And next up, we have the evil empire itself, the New York Yankees. Yeah, I gotta put them here. We all know I gotta put them there. They have insane talent on the team there, and if you look at what they have coming up here at shortstop, with we don't know if he'll start the regular season, but right now, Anthony Volpe looks like he may be one of the best shortstop they've had since Derek Jeter. And they have not had any really good shortstops after Jeter, but this guy's gonna probably change that for sure. And Jason Dominguez again, you know, this is a guy I have a lot of praise for. Once again, he's gonna be a beast, and I don't know if he comes up this year or next year, but the Yankees now again some young talent. I'm not sure how, but they are. And with what they have currently, that's what they really need to get over the hump. And I think if they do get caught up this year, they're getting over that hump of just being contenders to being easily World Series favorites. Does that mean they're gonna get past Houston? I don't know if they get past Houston. I don't. They really struggle against Houston, but we'll have to wait and see because it'll be interesting to see what all happens. And lastly, here we have the Pittsburgh Pirates. And this is, I haven't had many shocks in this, but this is going to be the one shock. Now, if you're a Pirates fan, you'll understand why I'm doing this, but if you're not, you're not going to understand. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they are in the position that the Baltimore Orioles were last year. And this is the point where the prospects are going to start getting caught up here, and you're going to see a real difference in the way they play compared to how they have in the past year. But I think this is definitely a significantly better team than last year. They got good quality players. They got Carlos Santana. He's a good player. He can hit you 20 home runs a year. G-Man Choi, another first baseman. He can also hit 20 home runs per year. They got some okay pitching additions there. Yarlene Garcia, the left-handed bullpen pitcher, did get hurt, and he's going to be out for a while here. So that's definitely a big hit because he's going to be a big piece of that bullpen this year. But they have some pieces. And then the big news was Andrew McCutchen coming home. I think this is the perfect move for the Pirates. They need a great mentor guy, and Santana's a really good one. But when you can get the former face of the franchise, not only have you won back the fans, but you also get to win those playoffs. And, they're going to start thinking, we're finally doing something here. Like, it's the last few years, like, we all knew they were losing. Like, they were definitely intensely tanking for picks here. They tanked in 2020 for the first overall pick. They tried tanking in 2021 for, honestly, they're probably tanking for Tamar Johnson, which is the guy they got anyway. And, honestly, last year, they probably did tank for Dylan Cruz. Like, I think there was they were decent, and then July happened. So you gotta wonder here, did a player catch their eye and they say, we're just gonna intentionally lose? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, the Pirates actually seem like out of all the teams they want to be, the Pirates are probably the worst defender when it comes to actually tanking. Like, they legitimately are. But you gotta wonder now, especially since they also had the first overall pick this year too, which they won in the lottery. Like, originally they were gonna be like the fourth overall pick. Actually, I think it was top 4. I think it may have been 3 to 4 where they were at. But they won the lottery and you got the first overall pick now, so they have potentially they're gonna get Dylan Cruz, and easily the face of the franchise, one of the best prospects we've seen in a long time come up through the draft. And yeah, there's a lot of positives here on the Pirates. There's a lot of great pitching prospects there. Shortstop prospects, there's a ton of them. They'll probably get moved around all over the outfield, but they have a ton of great prospects. Neil Cruz looks like he's going to be the face of the franchise. And honestly, if you watch spring training right now, it already seems like McCutchen being on the team is helping out big time. Like, keep Brian Hayes, insane potential, and he has the insane glove already. We've also been waiting on the hitting so far. So far in spring training, though, he has looked like what we thought he was supposed to be hitting-wise. Like, he finally is back on track. Mitch Keller looks like he's finally back to what we expected him to be when he was called up, which was a potential all-star starting pitcher. They have a lot of great pieces. Wanna-Seek and Trey West, another great starting pitcher. There's a lot of great pieces here that are interesting. And then what they have right now on the fringe in the minors is very exciting. You have Andy Rodriguez, looks to be one of the best prospects we've seen in a while coming up here. Henry Davis, he's in Double-A, but we all know the pedigree. There's a reason he was taken first overall, and when he's not getting beaten by balls, he is that player. Nick Gonzalez is a guy had a lot of injuries last year, but the year before was a beast, and he's going to be in Triple-A most likely. He's going to get called up soon. Like, a lot of great players are going to get caught up here. And Quinn Priester, this is the big one in my mind. This dude's going to be phenomenal. If you watch his curveball, it's one of the best I've ever seen. And this is a lot of great things when you look at the Pirates. And I think this year is the year they finally aren't awful. Now, are they a playoff team? No, they're not a playoff team. They'll probably be third in the Central. But at least third or fourth in the Central. But they will actually be a watchable team this year. And I think they definitely have improved to the point where I can't put them in the bad category anymore. I have to put them in the average. And I think this is a team that could possibly be exactly like the Orioles. And by the end of the year, end up being a fringe team. But yeah, that's my rankings here for this year. For opening day in MLB. Of course, I'll probably be doing a lot more of these when it comes toward, the All-Star break, I'll definitely be doing one. I'm sure trade deadline, I'll be doing one. September call-ups, I'll probably do one. And then right before the playoffs, I guess, like a breakdown of how all they did. But yeah, this will be a lot more great baseball stuff. So if you're a big baseball fan, definitely start tuning in here, because as soon as baseball season starts, which is, a couple weeks, the madness of me probably posting a bunch of baseball videos is also going to start. So, yeah, but if you guys like this, please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for more. Thank you guys for watching.